Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night Magny versus Prates. This episode's late, but we'll just bullet through these things. The fight night started perfect. Essentially, just finishes after finishes. I mean, Mullins had a finish, Gore had a finish, Blackshear had a finish. I actually thought Stamann was going to win that fight. Didn't win. Radtke, everyone's favorite F word. I thought I was rooting for him, obviously. Finish after finish. Then you had Zaleski dos Santos. He also had a finish. And then just when you thought, even as the fight card was going on, I was thinking Kowalkiewicz versus Gomes. Gomes has the ability to finish her, but she didn't. Instead, we just got a dusty 30-27. That's what I had on my scorecard, so we'll start with there. 30-27, Gomes. In the first round, Gomes outstruck Kowalkiewicz by about 10-plus strikes. A lot of that was in the clinch, but she outstruck her on the feet she outstruck her on the feet as well. Second round, same thing. She outstruck her again, this time by 14 strikes. And then the third round, she outstruck her by 6 strikes. Kowalkiewicz had a takedown. She didn't really do anything with it. And then Gomes had a reversal. So there you have it on that. You go to the scorecards. Okay, you go to the judges' scorecards, and they're just wobbly. They're just wobbly. A couple of these tonight. Everyone had a 30-27 except for one person. Saul D'Amato and Bell and Mike Bell, they both had a 30-27 for Gomes. Derek Cleary had it wrong. You give the last round to Kowalkiewicz. You give the last round to Kowalkiewicz. I don't know how the fuck I don't know how you give the last round to Kowalkiewicz. There's a stretch where she's like pushing the pace and she's landing a lot of strikes, but overall she's outstruck in this round, and her takedown is irrelevant. So honorable mention to Derek Cleary. It should have been a 30-27. You go to the next honorable mention. You go to the next honorable mention on the card, and that's Pinheiro versus Robertson. I had this 29-28. I had this 29-28 to Robertson. A first round for Robertson, last round for Robertson, second round for Pinheiro. In that first round, it's close on strikes with the edge to Robertson. Robertson's kind of getting outstruck on the feet for a little bit, but she has enough strikes. She lands enough to where she barely outstrikes her. Pinheiro, and she also has 2 takedowns. So the round belongs to her. You go to the second round. Robertson has a takedown, but she does nothing with it. She gets outstruck by Pinheiro by about 15 strikes. She is getting outstruck by a bigger margin on the feet. She gets outstruck on the feet throughout the entirety of the round. And then towards the end, she gets the takedown and lands a couple shots. It's not enough to switch the round to Robertson, but that's just what happens in the round. You go to the third round, where both of them have like a reversal. Both of them have a reversal, but Robertson has a takedown with ground and pound for about 3+ minutes. This round belongs to Robertson, and that's where you get the 29-28 for Robertson. You go to the judges' scorecards, and Adelaide Bird and Mike Bell, their scorecards are correct, 29-28 for Robertson, and then Derek Cleary is lost. He has a 29-27. He was the last round at 10-8. To Robertson, it's an unnecessary 10-8. There's no need for it. It's a stupid 10-8. You go to the next honorable mention, and that's Bolanos versus Romious. I'm going to say Romious. 30-27 to Bolanos. This fight pissed me off for the clear fact that I still have to continue to hear Brendan Fitzgerald just not know how to watch these fights. I don't understand it in the slightest. By the end of this fight, you have Brendan Fitzgerald going, yeah, this was a very close fight. He's saying that as though we're supposed to see the little half screen when Joel Martinez is reading the scorecards. He's saying this is a close fight. On what planet is this? There's instances in this fight that he may perceive as close because Romious is on top of Bolanos. I want to remind you that every time that Romious is on top of Bolanos, he's not striking. He's just holding on to him. There's a stretch in, like, I think round 2 where he's just on top of Bolanos, but he's searching for submissions. None of them are in, but he's searching for submissions. No strikes. No ground and pound strikes from Romious at all. And for some weird reason, Brendan Fitzgerald just doesn't acknowledge it. He's just thinking because he's on top, or because he has Bolanos' back, that he's somehow winning the fight. Stupid Brendan Fitzgerald. Crazy. So we go to the fight. I had this 30-27 into Bolanos. I put a star. I didn't put a close marker on this, but I put a star on the first round, just in case. In the first round, Bolanos outstruck Romious by about 10 strikes. He also had a reversal. Romious had a takedown. And then towards the end of the round, it looked as though, in real time, Romious, like, dropped Bolanos. But just the way it happened, I kind of just... I put a star next to my scorecard. I was like, if a judge were to score it the other way, maybe they saw that as a drop. It looked like he dropped him, but when I was watching it, it's weird to say. It looked as though he dropped him, but when I was analyzing it in my head, before they came back to the second round and explained it, I had already wrote down 10-9 Bolanos because it didn't look like a drop. He kind of got up really quickly. It almost looked like he was kind of off balance. It didn't look like a traditional drop, so I kind of just, you just kind of dispatch that. But I put a star just in case, like, a judge scored it the other way. Then I would have been like, maybe he saw it. Maybe it looked as though someone got knocked down. There's that. But that didn't matter. Let's say in a different world you give the first round to Romious. It doesn't matter. You go to the second round. Both of them had a takedown, but Bolanos had outstruck Romious on the feet by about 6 strikes, and he had a lot of ground and pound. Third round, both of them had 2 takedowns, but Bolanos had ground and pound, and he was active on the bottom. I want to make this very clear. Romious, every time he had a takedown, did nothing. And then on his last takedown, which wasn't even a takedown, I believe it was more of a reversal, really. On his last stint where he was on top of Bolanos, he landed maybe body, head 3 times, and then that was it. He was so inactive on top. It was insane. And that's because, granted, he was tired and, the situation of the fight. I'm not shitting on him. I'm just pointing out from a scorecard perspective that, that he was just really inactive on top, and that if he were a lot more active on top in the positions that if he was a lot more active with the strikes when he had Bolanos' back or when he was on top of Bolanos, he could have this could have been a different, we're looking at a different scorecard here. We're looking at maybe a 29-28, maybe a 29-28 split decision, maybe even a win, who knows, but he was so fucking inactive, and he was so unable to get a submission that he just forgot, hey, let's strike on the ground, and that just didn't happen. You go to the judges' scorecards where it's, I believe it's again a little weird, but 2 judges have it the correct way. Chris Lee, Saul Diamante have it 30-27 for Bolanos, and then Tony Weeks has it 30-26. For Bolanos. He gives a second round at 10-8. Again, another unnecessary 10-8. There's really no need for this 10-8 here. No need at all. But whatever. You go to the next honorable mention. That's Meerschaert versus Ridder. This fight ended in Ridder winning by submission in the 3rd round. I was surprised to see these scorecards from the judges. This is 2 rounds to Ridder. And this continues to happen. I'm going to talk about what happened in round 2, but I've seen some rounds like this where apparently they don't give a fuck what happens in between. Whoever ends up on top, if I'm remembering this correctly, whoever ends up on top is the winner of the round. I remember they did this for a specific fight where a person got beat the fuck up on the ground, but he reversed position and got on top, and then he won the round on one of the scorecards. And I thought to myself, are they even watching the fight? Or are they just looking at all the grappling transitions? Let's just get into it. Meerschaert versus Ridder, first round. This part isn't controversial. Ridder outstruck and dropped Meerschaert by about 8 strikes. Ridder also had 2 takedowns. He had 2 takedowns, but Meerschaert got up from both of them. They're kind of like irrelevant takedowns, but they still matter to the stats. In this round, Meerschaert is losing on the striking battle to Ridder. Ridder is outstriking him, but his strikes have a lot less punch on them. Meerschaert is landing heavy strikes. So he's down on strikes, but he's landing heavy strikes. In my head, I'm kind of juggling. I'm like, okay, I'm still going to have Ridder winning because he's outstriking him by a decent margin, but he's getting hit with some heavy shots. And eventually, obviously, up until the end where he gets dropped at the end of round one, obviously the round goes to Ridder, but I was still leaning on Ridder for giving him the round because he's up on strikes. You go to the second round where it's really goofy. Again, another 10-9 to Ridder. Meerschaert gets a takedown with ground and pound. He ends up on top at the end, but Ridder has 2 takedowns. Let's specify this real quick. Ridder has 2 takedowns in this round, and he lands more ground and pound. I want to make this abundantly clear. He has 2 takedowns, and the significant ground and pound comes from Ridder in the sense that when he's on top of Meerschaert, he's landing ground and pound. When he's on the bottom from when Meerschaert is on top of him, he's more active than Meerschaert is. Meerschaert lands some ground and pound here and there, but it's not as much as Ridder is. So I'm confused by the judges' scorecards of all of them going, yep, here you go, Meerschaert. It's a 1-1 round. It's a 1-1 fight before the third round. That's absolute nonsense. You go to the scorecards, and that's what it is. Junior Carmijo, Derek Cleary, and Mike Bell. Honorable mention all 3. I don't care. Honorable mention all 3. They give the first round to Ridder. They give the second round to Meerschaert. No way, Jose, at all. And then the main event, Magny versus Prates. There's nothing really to talk about other than Prates deters Magny from taking him down, and then Prates just hits a glancing shot to the temple. It grazes off his forehead, like the side of his head / forehead, and then sleeps Magny. Stupid. Makes no sense. We see these shots every once in a while. It's cool. It's cute. It's awesome. What's even cooler, though, is his 2 call-outs where he calls out Jake Della Maddalena. And in my heart went to the moon. I was like, oh my God, that fight would be awesome. That fight would be so fucking awesome. And then when he even brought it up. He was like, but we're probably far in the rankings. I like that. I like how he's just kind of cognizant of the fucking rankings. He's just like, he's like 4. I'm like 15 now. That would be the stupidest. Like, that would be ridiculous. That would be so nonsense. The only way that fight gets done is if Maddalena had a fight booked and then the fight fell off, which is kind of suspicious, and then Prates jumps in, right? Then we're like, oh, that's cool, but still kind of suspicious. And if I was Maddalena, I wouldn't take the fight. But that's Maddalena. He would take the fight, probably, maybe. Who knows? But the better call out, because they are kind of right. I guess the rub, every fighter that comes up has a narrative, a default skeptical narrative, right? With Pereira, has he fought a grappler? Technically, he's fought Blachowicz and Michailidis or whoever that one guy was, and that doesn't really count because they're not true grapplers, right? They're kind of strikers first, and then they just grappled him just cause. Same with Yuri, he grappled him for a little bit. It doesn't matter when. We want to see a true grappler in Ankalaev. That's the skepticism against Pereira. In this case, for Prates, who can bring Prates into later rounds, right? And also, who can actually make Prates look kind of human, right? Can they show him some level of adversity? Because so far, the only bit of adversity was Magny smothering him against the cage for like 4 seconds, trying to take him down. That was the only bit of adversity he had, really. I mean, there was a part in that first round where he was on him so much that, and he landed a couple strikes here and there, that obviously I got fooled by Prates's just default face, that it looked as though Prates was kind of like worried for a second. That's the vibe I got. But as the round went on, you just realized, no, he was literally just waiting for Magny to just, he was waiting to just push Magny and then KO him. So there we have it on that. Thank you all for listening, and God bless.